be How's It Hanging, How's It Happen? You guys know what it is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. The podcast Rolling Stone Magazine describes as the one that initiates profound discussions with rock and metal artists, allowing fans to discover the creative workflow of their favorite musicians and understand the facts that make the band succeed or fall from fame. We are also sponsored by Dark Fusion Systems, the best for your custom computing needs. Get $100 off your entire Blizzard code CPPod at darkfusionsystems.com. Link from the podcast below. Let's go to our feature presentation. You want to find out about a brand new band that you should know about that's been around for a couple of years? Please welcome Resider to the podcast. We have AJ and Will coming your way. This is one where we are going to have that full-on discovery of a brand new artist that you might not know about. We talk about their origin story, how they took a step backward to take two steps forwards when it came to discovering their sound and really going forward in their musical career, how they've essentially kind of become unhinged with creativity, and one of the crazy stories about how they played a show at 1 a.m. Yeah. Who plays shows at 1 a.m.? These guys do. And it's a good one. You guys ready? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. I've been doing this for 6 years now, and of course, what's been my main goals? Not only bringing on some of my favorite artists, bringing on some artists that you absolutely want to know about, but bringing on some artists that you might not know about, but you definitely should, because let's be honest, every band starts out as a local band, and the best way to discover the next best thing in music is to find it right now, and that's what I'm on a mission for. Let's find it right now. So here we are today. We've got a band from the California area that has a new metal roots mixed with modern metalcore style. They've got songs that have been coming out since around 2022. Their most recent song, Gas Fight, came out this year. There's probably more to come. Who knows? But instead of wondering, why don't we just talk to the guys and ask them about it and get you to know who they are right now? So please welcome AJ and Will from the band Resider to the podcast. So gentlemen, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Let's go.
Thank you for having us.
Let's go. We're super stoked.
Thanks for being on, guys. How is everything going in your world as of, well, what time is it? I would say, 5:36 p.m. on this very day out by you? For me, I'm 2 hours ahead of you, so I'm in the future. So what's the past like?
Traffic. SoCal typical traffic. That's been the last hour of our life for the most part. It's traffic. And pulling this guy out of the venue.
Yeah.
Well, shoot. No one really likes traffic. I'm actually kind of happy where I'm at right now because traffic isn't all that much. But if I ever have to go to a show when it's in Chicago, I'm like, okay, that's another like half hour to hour, depending upon how bad traffic is in that like 15-mile stretch. So I get it, but at least I'm not like fully in there, thankfully. I'll take that as a solace.
Where you at exactly?
I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Oh,
gotcha.
Do you own Milwaukee Tools?
I used to work there, actually.
Really?
Oh, no way. That's actually kind of funny.
My first job out of college was working as a data specialist for Milwaukee Electric Tool. I was there for 2.5 years.
Whoa.
Damn.
Let's go.
That's kind of tight.
That's sick.
So I've got, I'm trying to see, like, what do I got? I got a hammer drill and a Sawzall somewhere down there. Got my other power drill down there. I've got some like M12, M18 batteries with the little connectors that I could put in my heated jacket, or like the little top off that I could use a battery as an outlet. So I got some good stuff, not going to lie.
That's insane.
Not a sponsored video.
Yeah, this is not sponsored, by the way, but it should be.
Could you imagine them sponsoring a former employee's podcast about music? That would be just wild.
I feel like that's kind of in the vein, though. Like I feel like Milwaukee is definitely bold enough to do that because they don't. I feel like they're like one of those brands that people are just going to stick to no matter what, you know? It's got a diehard following.
Oh, it absolutely does. And it was just something like when I was there, and then I was like, okay, I see some of the sales that they'd have like for the employees, and it was like tickets for like, no, I'd say tools for like dirt cheap. I mean, I got a brand new like heated jacket for $25. And I looked online at the time and they were going for like $200. I'm like, can I get two?
Oh,
yeah,
what?
definitely.
That's insane.
Yeah, for 2 years, I'll say for 2 whole years, my dad was incredibly happy because every Father's Day, every birthday, and every Christmas, he knew he was getting something. He didn't know what it was, but he was getting something.
That's sick.
Yeah, that's definitely like, my son got the best job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when I left, he was like, oh, no, I don't get that.
He's like, buy me everything now then.
Yeah.
Oh, I had an old neighbor who was like, buy me everything now. He gave me a list of like, I think it was $2,000 worth of stuff to get. And I just said, fuck it. They're going to end up flagging my account to like, oh, this employee's been bordering too much. Who is the person that checked the flag accounts?
No way. Oh my God.
So I'm like, oh, approved. I got this.
Approved.
That's so sick.
Oh yeah, this cow got flagged.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good. Trust. Yeah,
that's good. Trust me. And it was just like, who else was gonna check it out? Like my boss. No, my boss has trusted me to do all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, but I'm leaving in like 2 weeks, so I'm pretty sure this was gonna be like the expected outcome. But whatever, Yeah, my buddy got a bunch of tools. He's an electrician, so he kind of actually needed them.
That's fair. Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah. 100%. But enough about, my past work history. I don't think people are really interested in that. What I'm interested in is Resider and you guys. One thing I love to do for especially any band I bring on the podcast is find out about their history, find out about their backstory, and really get to know who they are before even bringing them on. Trying to find history on you guys was really, really, really difficult. So I want to be the one-stop shop right now, the one-stop shop podcast where people can go and find about the history of Resider and what you guys are all about. So I want to know what the origin story of Resider is. I'm not talking origin story like, a little prelude to the whole entire thing. I'm talking, we're starting this out like the original Iron Man for the MCU. So let me hear the origin story from Resider from beginning to where you guys are now, and let's have some fun. Go.
So, so I guess I'll kick it off. We were in a band before this called Thorn with the other two members as well, with our drummer and our bassist / backup vocalist. And that just wasn't working out, and some crazy events happened with a member literally disappearing off the face of the earth and never coming back. Don't know what happened to him, still don't know. So that was like a kind of a crazy kicker event. And then we were kind of like, hey man, like we're just kind of tired of writing this kind of music, like where do we go next? And all of us have a history with each other. Like I've known our drummer and bassist for a pretty long time. We kind of grew up in other bands around the same local studio together. And then AJ and I have played in other bands in the past before and kind of hopped around. But then we were doing that band for a little bit. And then it got to that weird, crazy point. And then we were like, let's do something that we all connect with a little more closer to our roots. And we hopped on a FaceTime call. And we were just like, all right, let's do it. Let's change everything for no reason, just because we decided to, kind of. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I had our first single, actually, it's called Spore Breath. And I had written that in my bedroom, like by myself. This was like, I don't want to say we're a COVID band, but like I wrote it while we were sitting in my room, and the song is kind of about like toxicity and how it spreads and stuff like that. It's really based on the game The Last of Us, which I played during COVID. It's like one of my favorite games. Once I got the demo for that, though, I took it to my friend Chris. He actually plays in a band called The Void, and we ended up forming it into what Spore Breath was. And then in the midst of having all the Thorn stuff happen with that band that we were in, I was like, hey guys, I wrote this. Like, do you like it? And I showed everyone. Everyone's like, this is insane. This is what the band should be. And that's kind of just like, kind of where
I did like a one vocal takeover, and they were just like, yep, let's go that route. Like, let's go that way. I literally titled it Will Pete on it. And then like an hour later, they were like, yeah, this is sick. Let's push this idea and let's do that. And then we just slowly made a new band. Kind of, I feel like that's how a lot of bands happen. You find one thing's dying and then another thing kind of like pops out of that.
It's like the old saying, it's like, when God closes the door, he opens a window. It's kind of, I've heard that story from a number of bands too, where it's just a bunch of things didn't go right, but then an amalgamation of things not going right in individual people's lives just led them to a moment where, okay, we're going to start something new, and that's going to be what it is. One thing else I want to ask say before I get to my next, little question to ask about this origin story is shout out to frickin' Avoid. They're one of my favorite bands to listen to, and also one of my favorite bands to have in the podcast. Benny is just a fucking madman when it comes to this shit, and Avoid is fun as all hell. So if anybody gets a chance to go out and see Avoid play live, do it. Otherwise, you're going to be missing out on what might be the craziest, show of your entire life. So
exactly.
Go and do it. Shout out to Avoid. But when you guys were talking about you were making one kind of music beforehand, and then you wanted to try and transition to something different, what was the kind of music you were making beforehand, especially before Spore Breath became a thing as a song? And then what got you into this, going back to your roots and the inspiration that turned into the sound that Resider has today?
Thorn was more like a heavy deathcore band. The twist of it was nothing was in a normal time signature. So the point when we started it, when Nico and I had started that, was just like I want to do something really ignorantly heavy, but at the same time, I want it to be kind of complex and not really make sense because I'm bored. And it was like the idea came before COVID, but then COVID gave me the time to really sit down on a laptop and like flush out those crazy ideas. And I was just like, yeah, I love Dillinger and I love like really heavy bands. And I was like, I kind of want to just make something that's like chaotic and heavy. And then we put like a thematic storyline to it lyrically, and it was cool, but it was never meant to be more than like an idea and a project. And then as more people got involved, it became a band, and then that became more troublesome when it's like, hey, we got to play this like 9/4 part live now, and we got to like practice this, and we got to start writing more music and like figuring this and that out. And I was just like, dude, this is like so stressful. This is not what we wanted to do from the beginning. And then everyone was like, yeah, but we do want to be a band. And it was like, okay, well, like this was an idea that was a thing, and it was designed to be one thing. It was not designed to be what it is. And then when we got to the idea of Resider and like these other songs, it was like, well, why don't we just cut trying to make Thorn into something that makes sense and actually just dial it all the way back and kind of I don't know, with Resider, we were just kind of like, dude, like let's do something that's like more in our like wheelhouse of comfortability, in the sense of like we all grew up on new metal, we all grew up on like hard rock, we all grew up on some early metalcore stuff, and we all liked metalcore, and we were just like, dude, let's get away from all this heavy stuff and all this like difficult. Not that the music was difficult to play, but it wasn't realistically obtainable live because it was never meant to be. And then we were like, yeah, let's do something more fun, more energetic, more, again, back to the roots of like the new metal style. It's kind of what we all said that we wanted to do. You know, we all grew up on punk rock bands and pop punk bands and new metal bands, and not deathcore. So we moved away from it pretty quickly.
That does make sense, though, because it's never an easy thing to play a bunch of weird time signatures in a live setting, especially if the transition between song to song is something that takes an incredible amount of practice. And for those bands that do stuff like that, I have to tip my hat to them, because that is something that really stands out as, again, difficult, but my God, if you can perfect it, it's really something. But for you guys, it makes sense where you tried that out. You gave it a shot. It was something that was just different for what you wanted. But then you took a step back and said, what do we really want to do? What's something that really energizes us so that we're not overly stressed out by being creatives? We're not overly stressed out by trying to make it with something that, you know, might not necessarily be just energizing us in every step of the way, especially when it's your music, it's your creation. If you're not absolutely psyched about it, then who else is going to be absolutely psyched about it? And it's like, okay, did they go back to their roots? Yeah, do a lot of people do that? Yeah, but that's where you find out where exactly, you know, you feel like you're going to not necessarily fit in, but where your sound is, what's truly within you to come out and be the sound that Resider is going to have. It's something that every band does, and it seems cliche where you hear, oh yeah, bands went back to the roots, but you grew up on that. That's become a part of your history individually, whether it's pop punk, punk rock, emo, metalcore, new metal, even deathcore, whatever it might be. But that's something that really stands out as the authenticity. You guys went back to really what your own sound was individually, mix it together, and that's what Resider became.
Yeah, and it was one step back to take two steps forward. It really just made more sense for us, I think, and it also became much more collaborative in that sense, where everyone kind of has their piece in the band. You know, everyone has their like spot of creativity in the band that they're able to do as well, which made it a million times more productive and a lot easier, I think, for everyone mentally.
Now, I do want to ask this question because this is something that not only people can probably, you know, interject in their own daily lives and think about, but also any kind of musician as well. You said it was like taking one step backwards to take two steps forward when it came to, you know, going away from the crazy time signatures in deathcore, going back to your roots, and then discovering the sound. Was it difficult to take that step back, given where you guys were beforehand, to then go and just become what you guys had become with Resider? Or was it something that was pretty easy to take that step back mentally so you could discover where what your core sound actually is with Resider, and then jump forward with those two steps?
I think it was both for sure.
Yeah, I think it was a lot easier because rather than trying to like fit into something that we felt that we had to like learn and adapt to, which I mean, we're not all like super comfortable with like the deathcore stuff. Everything was mainly like Will in that sense with the writing, but for all of us, we all like I said, we grew up on the new metal, the metalcore and stuff. So we were like, why don't we just go back and do what we're comfortable with, but do it our way, and do it like what makes us like comfortable in that sense. And we were like, why don't we just learn how to perfect like doing the metalcore, the new metal, rather than trying to learn deathcore. Essentially, that's kind of what we were doing. Yeah.
And like, I guess by a step backwards, it was like kill another bit, because like we could have taken Thorn and just rebranded it into what Resider was, but it was more, let's kill this off entirely and leave it for what it was and just start fresh, because that seemed easier. It seemed easier to start again than to try to turn something into a different direction. Mm-hmm. And sometimes life is easier that way,
The reason why I wanted to ask that question too is because I've seen other artists do something very similar, where maybe they were in one sound, or maybe they were in one completely different space in life, and then they took that step back to try something different and ended up putting them 2 steps forward eventually, just given that it was truly what was within them and truly what they wanted to do. But there's a lot of times where people, artists, anybody out there, they'll take a look at, okay, this is what we've already built up on. This is what we've already earned. This is what we've already gotten. And we hold on to that so dearly that we don't want to lose that. And that's maybe where the idea to rebrand Thorn to really become what Resider is now, where that idea came, because you didn't want to lose on what you built on. But again, you have to take a look at the other side of the coin too. When you were going to rebrand it, if you did rebrand it, now fans that had come to know it were going to expect a certain sound, expect a certain style. And if it's a complete 180 and it doesn't work out in a very specific way, those fans will leave and everybody else will be like, oh, we remember what their old stuff was like. We're not sure if that's going to work. Not every band's going to have one of those moments where they can progressively change their sound and still hit like a Bring Me the Horizon. That's not going to be the case almost every time. But by taking that idea and just leaving that where it was, taking the step back to rediscover yourselves, restart as Resider and go forward, you're resetting expectations for yourself, and you're able to go back and rebuild exactly what you had. But now you have a core and a base that is so much more within you. It's going to drive you further to not only get back that, but people are going to attract that, because people attract that kind of positivity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's also like it mentally, I think you feel better too when it's new. You're more like, okay, well, I got to get this now. It's not like, well, I'm just leaving all my stuff on pause while I figure it out. It's like, like you have something fresh. And so you're trying to you have a clean slate. You can literally design it however you want, and whatever. You can make the artwork, you can make the image, you can make the branding, you can do your music how you want to do it. And you can try weird stuff when it's early on too. You can experiment. I think our first 3 songs were pretty different in the concept of them all, because we were just trying to figure it out. Now we have a much more idea. Like when we go into writing, we know what we're doing. We know what we're usually going for. We're going for a specific sound or a specific idea with newer songs. But back then it was just like, hey, I have an idea. Okay, cool. Let's just chase it all the way through and see where it goes.
But that's the beauty about it when it's a brand new thing too. You have the freedom to absolutely do that. It was the same thing with this podcast as well. At the beginning, I was just chit-chatting with myself, or if I was bringing on artists, it was like, how am I going to talk to these artists? What am I going to say? What am I going to ask? How am I going to drive these conversations? Over 6 years later, it's like you look at an episode between 2025 and 2022, and the style, you're going to see a lot of similarities there. But if you go back to 2019, it's a completely different thing. But it's like, yeah, now we're kind of set in a very similar path, but it's a path that, for myself, I created. It's a path that I want to go down, and I still get excited to do these every single day when I get a chance to do them. Very similar with your music. You had a chance to restart and start fresh, so you're able to just experiment, be excited about it. Now your songs might have a little bit more of a consistency to them and a little bit more of a focus to them, but it's because you guys have figured out the sound that you want to cultivate and what you want to expand on. So it isn't necessarily new, but it's just more of like a well-oiled machine continuing to churn out creativity. That's right. Really where it comes from, and it's not easy to get there. But if you're able to just ride that excitement and discover it and take the time to let it grow and let it really come into what it's going to be, then you're going to get stuff that becomes great. And so many bands and artists have done that in the past. So many of the most successful artists have done that in the past. Some artists haven't had their big success until, album 6 or 7. Bad Omens had their success on album 3. Sleep Token had their success on, album 2 or album 3? But it's just, no one's going to have the success right away. Even Linkin Park took some time before Meteora came out, even as their debut album. But It takes time to discover that, and it's the excitement of that beginning part. Ride that excitement as long as you can, because that's where all the creativity really gets folded in, like into the fold. And then when you go forward, it's still there. It's just you have the process of being creative down so well that you just know what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we wanted to create like a home base. Essentially, it's kind of what like the start of building the band was. We need to create a home base where we're comfortable and like we have that machine, like you were saying, like a well-oiled machine. And that's how it started. Is we, rather than trying to learn, how these parts go and whatever, we were like, why don't we just make our own blueprint, essentially? So that way we can foster that for the rest of whatever we create music wise for Resider. So,
and that's exactly what you guys should be doing, and I'm glad you guys have done that. And now it's 2025. You guys have been releasing music on Spotify for at least 3 years at this point, and you have figured that out. So fans are getting into it, people are getting into it, you guys are playing live shows, people are coming out to see Resider and see what happens, and all that takes is just just keep rolling, just keep going, and you never know what opportunity is going to find you guys. But if you can continue to find that like inspiration and that energy of like a brand new thing, especially with every aspect of what's going to come to the band, what about you get a chance to play a new show? Okay, you get a chance to open up for a bigger band, get a chance to play a bigger room. Okay, this is exciting. What can we do with this? You might be a major success. You might not have the best show ever, but you're going to take that excitement and build on it and be more creative the next time, so that when you guys go out and play, you're going to still have that knowledge and experience, but also that creativity and energy to make it the best thing possible.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
And when it comes to you guys playing live, how has that been? And what can fans expect when they come and see a Resider show? Because, when I see you guys have been, released music for 3 years, been primarily in California, especially here in Wisconsin where I'm at, I'm not really sure if I've gotten a chance to see you guys ever play live. So I need to know right now what the Resider live show is like, so that we can get more people excited to go see Resider play live, so that you guys can, make it all the way out here and then make it all the way out to the East Coast and then Canada and then Europe and then Australia, where they're just really crazy and love this kind of stuff.
I'm only trying to go to Australia. That's one place.
Yeah,
the whole band is just a free ticket for me to go to Australia, but except I'm paying for everything all along the way.
Yeah,
so it's not really free. I don't know. Live, I feel like every show's a little different. Every show changes, but I mean, I feel like you could say that for any band. We have like some stuff that changes. Like, no, we don't play our songs exactly the same every we have like a melody cut of 2 songs, or medley cut, not melody, medley cut. So we do change songs up live than what they are normally. We're pretty crowd interactive. We try to be. We're around I've seen a lot of cool bands, and I just want to be like the cool bands. I want to get people involved, and like if you're going to a metal or rock show, you should expect something that you walk away with like, yes, that was fucking sick in some form or the other. Like whether it's you're just seeing a band rock out and it sounds cool and you're just head bobbing in the back, or you're like up front and you want a crowd surf, or you're like you see a vocalist jump across a bar or jump on a speaker or something. Like you should leave thinking like something's cool. Like I always feel like whenever I see bands like that, I get really inspired, anywhere from like going to see like Let Live back in the early days, or going to see like 21 Pilots now. Even you still see like cool stuff that's not the same every show and different. Like Green Day's always been one of my favorite bands, and I love how weird he gets sometimes. Like back in the day, he used to be laying on the floor humping the ground. I'm like, that's fucking weird as shit, but like it's a different experience every show. And I feel like with Resider, we try to kind of keep to that. Our banter changes every show, our crowd interaction kind of changes every show, and we try to keep it as high energy and as fun as it can, but also like, you're at a rock show, expect a rock show. At least that's my perspective on it.
That's a great perspective to have, especially from a fan side of it too, because I've never been in a band. I've never been able to play up on stage. My instrument and knowledge and experience ended when I was 14 years old, when I decided to continue playing soccer instead of continuing out with the drums. Now I do this instead of play soccer, so maybe I should have stuck with it. Who knows? But when, as a fan, I get to go see a show, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that show that I'm going to, leave afterwards and feel like I went through something fun. I experienced something great, and that this was 100% worth getting a lot, like not a lot of sleep the next day to go to work, because I want to make sure that in a week I'm remembering that great show that I saw and not the fact that I got enough sleep and went to work the next day, because no one remembers those days. And when you see bands like that and you see bands that create that experience that fits them, that's what's key. You guys having that crowd interaction, but being able to edit the kind of crowd interaction you have based on the show that you're at, edit the banter, change the songs around by having a different medley of 2 songs that are in there. Maybe you play certain songs heavier live. Maybe you play them faster live compared to what's the recorded version. I've seen bands do that. My friends in Caskets do that all the time with they play some of their songs heavier in a live setting, and I love it so much more because that's the only time you're going to get to experience something like that. Think about Sleep Token. They put on an incredible live performance. Yeah, you're not going to be getting the crazy interaction from the crowd as much as you would at, let's say, like a Knocked Loose show, but it's an experience that you're absolutely invested in throughout the whole entire set. Green Day, another great example too. I've only gotten a chance to see them once at Larger Than Life in 2023, and it was the best set of the entire weekend, and it was the last set of the entire weekend. Like, there's something about that just captures you and just captivates it. And by being able to study that and understand where your favorite bands have done that, what has drawn you, and how you can draw fans in from that, that's going to be a thing that's going to get you on those bigger bills, because even though those fans and those bigger bills, if you guys are opening for bigger bands, might not know who Resider is, that's your moment for 25, 30 minutes for them to get to know you. And the more you interact with them, the more they're going to be able to easily get into you, remember you, and be able to check you out on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever it is, when they go to work the next day.
Right. Like I said, if you're going to a rock show, expect a rock show. Don't expect the bar band to play the cover of the song that you've heard 100 times. And there is a perfect world where that is totally fine and that exists for some musicians. And I love that. They make more money than I do. So, good for them. But at the same time, if it's 5 or 500 people, I don't really care. It's going to be a fun show. One of our favorite shows that we played last year was in Medford at 1 a.m. to like 10, maybe 15 people. And I had there was a furry helmet I wore, and it just happened to be on the stage. I jumped on the bar twice, and yeah, it was a great time. But it was 1 a.m. and we were just like, you know what? Fuck it. We're here. We're going to play. So, and we're going to give these 10 people a good time, because that's what we're trying to do.
Why were you playing at 1 a.m.?
So you want to tell the story of the show swap?
This is a story. So we were on a tour with our good friends. Shout out A Moment's Notice
and Label Mates.
Those are our boys. But we were on a tour and we were supposed to play in like this mall. Literally our mall. Load in was in the back of like a Westfield. Like, it was super crazy, whatever. But we load in, get on stage, and like everything's prepped, our merch is ready. And then the promoter essentially said, like, hey guys, like, don't expect like such a good turnout. There's another show down the street, like, but we're gonna rock it, like whatever. And then not even like 20 minutes go by. And we're sitting there like, okay, like whatever.
Yeah, nobody there.
Nobody there.
Nobody in this mall.
Nobody there. Doors are open, whatever. And then the promoter comes back and says, hey, I can get you guys, both of you guys, to play at the place down the street, but we got to go right now. And we were like, are you serious? So it was like
this is Medford, Oregon.
This is Medford, Oregon. Yeah, the most chaotic, like, oh my gosh, everybody. So like, we're throwing drums in our trailers, like still like on stand,
everything
cymbals,
on stand, still built, like just in the trailer.
We're just going, like we're like,
yo, we did it in like 10-15 minutes.
We did. It's probably one of our fastest loadouts. Like we're never that fast. But that time we were like, throw everything together. We get in our trailers, we drive down the road to the other venue, and there's like a band playing. We're loading in, and because there were so many bands already on the bill, they were trying to squeeze us in there, but they wanted to keep us longer for like bar sales.
Yeah.
They wanted to keep people around and stuff like that. So they kind of like pushed us towards the end. And so we ended up being the last 2 bands playing for the night. And just so happened that we were technically headlining the tour. So we ended up playing last. So we
Notice didn't play. They had to leave.
Yeah.
Because they were actually going to play after us. And Sergio had a thing to go to, and so they were like, hey guys, we have to go to Sacramento like tonight, so it's getting so late that we're just gonna leave. So I think I think we got on stage around like 12:30 and loaded everything on, and there was a lot of people there to start that show. And when we got there at like 8:30 or something, there was probably a good 100 people in this little bar, and it just slowly dwindled because it was like ended up being like 7 bands total. And then we got on stage at like 12:30, and I was like, I'm not even gonna turn around. I'm just gonna fucking rip this set, you know. It's like we're just. And it was really funny too because our drummer actually, it was his birthday. Midnight was his birthday, so it was really funny because the people that stayed were actually really cool and like really into it, and we're having a good time. They're like, yeah, this band's bold, they're just gonna fucking play. I'm surprised they didn't leave, or dip. And so we actually had whatever people were there get on the tiny little stage with us and like sing our drummer happy birthday like in the middle of the set. Just it was so funny. And I think I was kind of drunk still at that point, and our drummer was still a little drunk because we had just been drinking all night because we were just like, that was so stressful. And then we got there and we were just like, fuck it, we're just here. So, and I just remember there was a furry helmet like on one of the speakers, and I was like, I'm gonna wear that thing. I don't care who wore this.
It was very unhinged.
Very unhinged show.
It was really wild.
Like I said, every show's different. You never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Well, when it's a show that starts at, you're playing at 1 a.m., it's going to be unhinged. There's going to be something that just doesn't make sense. And yeah, throw the furry helmet on. Why not? But it's stories like that become like the lore and legend behind certain bands. Those are the things that people just think about. They're like, holy shit, that was crazy. Whether you were one of those people at that show that night that got to see Resider play at 12:30, 1 in the morning, sing happy birthday to the drummer, furry helmet and all, jumping on the bar, just ripping like crazy. But when more people hear about those kinds of stories, especially in the rock and metal space, they're like, my God, that is so fucking awesome. Now you're more invested in the band because they're going to go out and just rip whatever they can when in terms of shows. They're going to put out the best thing they can possible, given whatever situation it is. And that's the kind of stuff that, I see bands like Silly Goose. That's how they got much more well known over the past couple of years. Because again, they would just show up to shows and they just follow around tours and just play shows in the parking lot in their van. And that was it. And just until they got shut down, they would just keep going. Stories like that, they just start to grow and grow. And then the band's legend and lore just grows and grows and grows. That's when we got to get that story out to more people, because now they're going to want to go see Resider play if they know that they're going to play a show 1 in the morning. They're going to play a show with whatever they're given with, and it's going to be a good time. The question is, what are you going to see? How is it going to make you feel? And how are you going to tell people at work the next day that you saw one of the coolest shows ever and you just essentially, stumbled into it early before everyone else got to know about it?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I'd put a furry helmet on if it was 5,000 people. I think it'd be funny as fuck. Like either way. Mm. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's the like not give a fuck attitude that you need when you're playing. Like obviously you got to care about what you're doing and how you're playing and not being an asshole or whatnot, but you still got to get up there and not give a fuck and just play. If we're there and we drove there and we're slotted to play, we're gonna play.
It's having that not give a fuck attitude, but with awareness to know exactly where you are, what the surroundings are like. But when you're up there, it's kind of like being in a fight or being in a boxing match or a kickboxing match. You're just don't overthink it. Just act on it. Just go with it. That's the don't give a fuck attitude. But you know exactly where you are. You know what has to be done. You're not going to do something stupid that's going to put you in so much danger you're going to get knocked out. You're not going to do something that's going to put you in so much danger where you're going to get the set cut because something negative happened. And then that's going to turn into negative press for the band in the end. That's not going to happen with that kind of awareness.
No, right. And it's totally just like get up there and do whatever comes naturally, but obviously just don't be an asshole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a line.
Yeah, there's for sure a line with everything. But yeah, I mean, like I said, if we drove there and we showed up and we're slotted to play, we're gonna play. It's gonna, and then if there's nobody, we're still gonna have a good time. That's a free practice, if you ask me. Free practice, and true. Free drinks, sure.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Now I'm gonna be very curious to see what happens when you guys get on festival lineups, because now that's in front of a lot more people, but those people are ready and willing to see anything wacky, crazy happen. So if you guys got on a festival lineup like Aftershock, man, they'd be in for a wild ride, potentially seeing furry helmet come out there and just start ripping vocals.
I really kind of hope that nobody hears about that and then doesn't bring one, because then I'm going to be pressured and then I have to, if somebody just shows up with one and they're like, you heard the furry story, so you're going to wear the helmet. And then I'm like, well, now I'm going to have this legacy with me for the rest of my life,
Yeah, but you can just decide if you want to wear it then or not. I mean, it's not something you have to do every time. You set the precedent that it's like, I'm not going to do this every time. You just roll with it.
Shows up with one, though, I feel like they went through enough effort to get it into where it had to go.
Yeah.
I mean, just go out wearing, the Bucky's onesie and just start ripping a show. You never know. Just come up with something different. Then it's just, it stays creative and it stays in your wheelhouse. It's just like your music. You don't have to stick with one thing or one gimmick when it comes to being up on stage just because you had a crazy story with it. But you can take that crazy story and create so many other just things around there for the sake of randomness. But again, it all depends upon what show you're at and what the style of the show is going to be. You're letting the show dictate itself. You're not having it dictated by, it has to be this thing, or we have to do this on stage. Let it rip, let it ride, be authentically Resider, because then again, that creativity is going to continue to flow. It's still going to have a core behind it, but you can still go in any which direction you want because it'll still make sense.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So maybe you guys come out to Milwaukee to play, and then I can come up with something wacky. Not a furry helmet, but something different. Maybe, well, let's see. Yeah, you'll go and rip a show while wearing a cheese head.
All right.
Ooh.
I'm down. I like cheese. I like lactose intolerant. I ain't scared.
Personally, I'm a fan. Too.
I would love to get out that way. I have never actually been that far north in the U.S. I've been to New York, but I've never in Niagara Falls. But I don't think I've ever been to like that area. I guess I don't know if that's technically considered the Midwest or not.
It is.
Yeah, I've never been up that far in that way. We've been trying to get out that way. That's been our goal. We've been. It's really expensive touring wise because you kind of get barred by a lot of long drives from like Reno and Salt Lake and Vegas and Albuquerque and all that stuff. It's just like that weird part of the U.S. where there's not much and everything becomes far until you get to the Midwest and East Coast, and then everything gets way more condensed. But we're aiming for it.
That's actually what I'm curious about too, because especially when we see tours happen, if there's a West Coast or an East Coast one, it seems like there's a lot of times where, of course, you'll see bands when they go through tours, if they're going from West to East, it'll be like they're doing, a couple stops in California, then they'll do Phoenix, maybe Vegas, and then it's always Salt Lake, and then maybe a day in between for Denver, and then a day in between, and then you're finally somewhere in like Kansas City, St. Louis. Maybe you went to, somewhere in Iowa, maybe you went to Minnesota, but that kind of drive, especially from a touring band aspect, especially from where you guys are, like you said, that puts a lot of pressure and has like kind of like an invisible wall that you kind of have to pass or you have to break through. So what essentially is that like for you guys right now to try and get past that for a band that is in California trying to break out further, into the Midwest and then to the East Coast in a touring aspect?
Yeah, we're definitely trying to get out that way, and like I said, it's difficult because it does get scary, right? You're talking about being far from home isn't necessarily the scary part until you think about breaking down really far from home, and you're like, where do I tow our rig to? How do I tow a van and trailer it somewhere over? Like if you got to go from Salt Lake to Denver, for example, you have to go up and over the Rockies, generally speaking, and if you break down somewhere on there, you're 1,500 miles away, like how do you that's where it gets scary because you're thinking like, oh man, if we break down up here, like where do I go? Do I just drop the van off at some random person then like fly home? Versus when you're in this kind of area regionally, we're not too far from Vegas. 5 hours, LA is obviously 2 hours, and then Phoenix is 5 hours as well, and then if you want to play some smaller markets in California, they're 5 hours and then 8 to Sacramento, so it's not that bad. But yeah, it is a wall, and I think that's where we're at as a band right now, is we're trying to break through that wall and get over there, because we've had a lot of people on social media ask, when are you coming over here? What are you going to do next? And it's like, we want to. It's just, yeah, it's a difficult wall because you also have to commit to time at that point too. You're looking at a 3-day drive out to Texas, or like if you wanted to go to Dallas, it's a 2-3 day drive, I would think ish. So yeah, it's difficult, but not impossible. Definitely want to do it.
Yeah, but also make it worth it for us to come over there. We need the demand.
Yeah, if we go to Milwaukee now, I want the cheese head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's one thing that we need to have happen though is not only is it getting past, especially the fear of where you might break down, especially if you're in between, Salt Lake, Denver, and then wherever your next stop after Denver might be is further east, whether it's, Kansas City, that might be the closest place tangibly. And you have to go all the way pretty much through Kansas for that one just to get there. And eastern Colorado. So you got a long ass drive to deal with there. So you have to be able to get past that. You need to be able to build up the resources to be able to have something in case of a breakdown. But then at the same time, you're going to go out. You want to make sure those shows you're going to go out there are going to be worthwhile. Yeah, especially here where I'm at in Milwaukee, I can get to Madison in an hour. I can get to Chicago in an hour and a half. If I want to, I could get to Indianapolis in 3.5 hours if I really wanted to. So, like cities, they're much more condensed. And if something breaks down, you're not that far away from a place that's going to be able to take you in and fix up the rig. And, where you're going to be able to stay. But when you're in that, Great Plains, Rocky Mountain area, you've got to be able to not only have the resources to be able to get past it in case a breakdown happens, but when you get out further and you're actually in these markets, that the demand is there, that it's going to be financially viable for you guys. Because you're not going to go out there, commit all that time, and then have a bunch of money spent on shows that the demand just isn't there. You got to make sure the demand is there. So that's something that a lot of fans who want to go and see Resider come out to the Midwest or to the East Coast, you got to start talking about them online. You got to start just really pushing them and getting more people to know about them. Word of mouth is such a strong thing. We've been talking about that for a while on this podcast. So put a focus in on it, man.
We're listening. If we hear it, we're there.
Yeah. The moment it makes sense is the moment it gets done,
Mm-hmm. What?
Say the moment August Burns Red says, hey, does Resider want to go on tour with us? And then it's just like, well, we know those shows are going to be, at least having, 800 to 1,000 people a night. Yeah, we're in.
I told our manager before, is if something like that happens, the answer is not yes. The answer is when and where. Or yeah, where and when do you want me to show up day one?
Where do you need us?
Yeah, it's something like that goes through, it's just okay, when and where. That's all I want to know. Other than that, yeah.
Well, let's get more people psyched about Resider in this capacity. Right now, again, I've seen that Gas Fight is the only song that's come out in 2025. We still have a good chunk left of this year to go, so what can people expect from Resider in 2025?
Being more unhinged. We got more of it.
Yeah,
we got plenty more of it. And we don't plan on stopping. So,
yeah. When does this podcast, how long does it take you to drop them usually?
So it all depends upon schedule and timing, and especially if I have bands that come on that have new releases coming out. Let me open up the schedule and just get a good idea of a general time frame right now. Even though I was going to go over this with you at the end of the show, you're asking
to know what we could say.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Yeah, I can go in depth, but
we can talk about it.
We want to know when this.
Alrighty. Just seeing what we've got now. I got a bump. I'm looking okay, I got to bump that, knowing what's coming up. Let's assume the first full week of May. So May 6th, May 8th territory.
We're good.
All right.
Yeah. We got a whole new song coming out before then, so we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since the song will be out by then, we have a song coming out on the 18th called "Pissing," so it'll be out. And we'll see what people think of it, I guess. I'm sure if people see this podcast, they'll probably be like, yeah, that song pissing. What the fuck? Yeah. So that's the next thing. That is we are just keeping it real close to our chest right now because with the way things are nowadays, you don't give a month for a single, you don't promo it for a month long. We do a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks at the most, but we're coming into that 2-week mark soon. So or not tomorrow. Well, I guess tomorrow if you count Thursday, right? Because it usually releases a Thursday night.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that'll be out on the 18th. So
yeah. We kind of want to. It's like an aggressive it's gonna drop and you will hear it. That's it.
2-minute, 20-second song.
You will hear it, and we will make sure that you hear it.
Yeah.
But till it drops, that's kind of what we're waiting on. So
yeah, we can talk about it because it'll be out.
True.
Yeah.
Oh, we can totally talk about it because it'll be out.
But yeah, it's our next trial to test the waters on like like I said, our unhingedness.
Yeah,
we're gonna
kind
see
of.
how much people really pick up on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's why the song is called Pissing. It's kind of
It was a pre-pro name and it stuck because everyone was like, "Oh, that's just so cool that it's funny, or it's so funny that it's cool."
Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense, but if you're going to go more and just show some of that unhinged style, why not go with a song called Pissing? It just fits for it. But if I think about it in this capacity too, for people, it's like, are they going to want to hear this? Let's think about it. You guys are going unhinged on this in a 2 minute, 20 seconds because that's what you want to do with this. You want to explore this and see what kind of sound this works for you guys and how this all fits in the fold that is Resider. But what's even better is people right now, especially in the heavy music scene, they're kind of just gravitating towards more of that angry, unhinged, just pissed off kind of style and really getting behind it. If people weren't getting fully behind it and fully open to it, would Knock Loose have had the album of the year last year? Would Alpha Wolf be growing? Would Kubla Khan be going on some of these major tours? Would Throne have just hit off like none other for doing and be able to do a headlining run of shows in the US off of one album and like only like maybe a discography that has songs that equal time up to 40 minutes? People are into this kind of stuff. So being able to just create something that is, again, authentically coming from you because this is exactly what you just want to do with this, not trying to follow a trend, but just seeing where the unhinged piece of Resider can go, might be the perfect time to release something like this.
Yeah, it's for sure I think it's the heaviest song we've done for sure. And it's definitely the most unhinged. And it's not unhinged for the sake of just being unhinged. It just kind of was like, it's just unhinged because that's what we wrote. And we all were like, yeah, this song is just this song. Like, it's just what it is. So we're gonna put our all into that factor of it, you know, like it's still authentically coming from, like, it still makes sense, you know. It's heavy, but it's heavy for a reason, I guess. That's kind of how it got written too. It's like, all right, we're doing this, okay. And then we got the mix back. We were like, what the fuck, dude? Like, this is fucking silly.
We're like, whoa.
Yeah. It's a good time.
But again, it falls into you made the song because that's what you want to make. It naturally occurred like that. You're not trying to follow a trend. It's just what happened. Like, you guys create a song from the ground up and you hit on something that you wanted to hit on. That's where the creativity aspect comes in, like we were talking about earlier. You still have that new, fresh feel and you can be creative, but you got the process down to be able to be creative and be a little bit more zeroed in on exactly what the core sound is. You're still expanding that sound of what the reach could possibly be. This is another avenue to go down about it, and it came naturally. That's the key.
Yeah, and it was cool too because we got to play 2 tours on it and some shows in between. So we got to really dig into this song way more than we normally do. A lot of times we don't even play a song before it comes out live or even at practice a whole lot. We'll do a few and we'll just, you know, our drummer will run it a few times and then we'll all track our instruments and then we put the song out and then we start playing it and we're like, oh, all right. But this one we got to do 2 tours on it before it came out. We got to run multiple shows in between. So we got to have a good feel of the song before we final tracked it, honestly. Yeah. We played it and we were like, yeah, like this. Now we know what we like about it live already before we've even tracked it and put it out. And that's why we're like so stoked because we've been sitting on this song for like a year now. So it's kind of wild. It was really it wasn't supposed to be the second single. It was supposed to be a third single following another song last year, but we pulled it back for some stuff. So it's kind of cool to do that with the song too. So that's why I think we're really amped for this one for sure because, like I said, we got to play it a lot and then we got to track after we had been playing it so much. And it was like, it changed the way that we went about it and our process. So it's so different than how it probably would have been if we hadn't gotten to do that and play it, you know, so many times and practice it and all this stuff.
Well, shoot, you guys have had this for over a year. You've been going out and touring on this song already, so you already got the live reaction to it. I'm going to yell, just give it to us now. But funny enough, by the time this podcast releases, you've already given it to us. So everybody, before, after we wrap this up and we say goodbye to you, then go over and listen to Pissing by Resider. Go and do it right when we're done with this because, trust me, you're going to want to get unhinged. Now it's time to get unhinged. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, I got one more question I want to ask you guys before we wrap this up, because you guys have given us one hell of a show today. You guys give us one hell of an interview. I absolutely want to thank you for that. And you guys are a band that I want to get more people to know about, so that's why we're doing this. But I love to ask a question at the end of this for us to get to know more about the bands that you love, that you would love to see, get a lot more people into them and get a lot more of a spotlight put on them. So this is the question. I'm going to limit it to 3 because otherwise we could be here all day. Between the two of you, can you guys name me 3 bands or artists that you love that you would love to see more people get into right now?
What you got?
3 like total between us two?
Yep, 3 total between the two.
Oh, damn. I mean, who's on the up and up right now, man?
In terms of heavy or just like good bands?
All together, yeah.
Anybody that you want to shout out. Doesn't matter the genre, the style, anything. I've had country artists get suggested to me. I've had rappers get suggested to me. I've had pop artists get suggested to me. I've had synthwave get suggested to me. Like someone broke the rules and gave me like 6 synthwave bands to check out. And I'm like, yep, we're going to, push them all anyway. So whoever you feel like deserves more notice.
I think Kendrick Lamar definitely. He's been on the up and up lately.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah,
imagine.
Yeah, he's like low key, right? Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of friends, but it's also like not that I don't listen to my friends' bands. I'm just trying to think of bands that I'm like not gatekeeping, but
I think I do have one that is on the up and up. I'd say, and it's I'm a little biased because I did just get off tour with them, but they're my good friends in Young Culture. It's like a pop punk. They like pop punk revival. It's like a newer like pop punk type band.
Solid plug.
And they're just like the nicest humans I think I've ever met in my life, and they put on such a great show. So I think they for sure would take my top, and then you can give one, and then we'll do probably one together. But yeah, my unbiased opinion would be.
I almost want to dig through my Spotify now because I like rotate through so much music, but I'm trying to think of something that I'm like. I mean, I have the shameless. I'll always plug Bill Murray no matter how big that band gets, but I feel like that's unfair because he's so big now. Because it's just like, I think if you don't know about that band by now, you're just a fool.
It's a good one.
Yeah, so I'll keep that as my one big plug for the day.
And then we need one more.
Bill Murray deserves the world. Bill Murray deserves 50 million monthly listeners.
True. Dude, one more sleeper.
Not even a sleeper.
I don't know.
It's hard because it's like I'm digging for like small bands that deserve more recognition. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, damn, man, that's like.
Hey, if you got friends you want to shout out, this is the perfect time to do that too.
Yeah. You already shouted out Avoid.
Yeah, Avoid. Side note, also a band that I work pretty close with. Those are my boys, and those are our boys.
Great friends,
and they're on the up and up too.
Yeah, they are on the up and up. They've been crushing it. They've got good music coming out. They've had great singles so far.
Good songs. Yeah,
they've been around for a minute doing it, and they work super hard too. Like they're just some of the best people as well.
Yeah, and I mean. Side note, that not that it matters, but their newest single, "Burn," I actually helped co-write on that one.
Yeah,
so that was really fun to do, and it was a collaborative effort with Chris, who also sometimes writes with us, and that one was really fun.
Also, yeah. Side note too, while we're at it, which is homies. I'm still in the fourth. Boy Grimm, Isaac's a really good friend of ours, and he's like a alternative artist, kind of in like a weird Citizen vein, with mixed in with I don't want to say hyper pop, but mixed in with some of that newer stuff. And like he's a really talented guy, and we work with him as well, and he's great. So another a totally off base shout out in the sense of genres.
Honestly, I'll take that as our third.
Yeah, I'll take
that as our
Boy
third.
Grimm.
That is our
one word.
Yeah, Boy Grimm, all one word. That is my boy. I've known him for a really long time, and he does deserve the world. He has completely shifted his genre to like more the rock Citizen type.
Yeah, more like grungy alternative rock.
And it's working. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So
Well, instead of 3, you guys gave me 4. You guys broke the rules. You went unhinged. Whatever happens, happens. You're pleasing the people. So, yeah, I always ask for 3, but people do break the rules all the time, and I never mind. So, you just guys followed suit with, the unhingedness, and I absolutely love it. But AJ, Will, I do want to thank you guys for taking the time today for me on the Chord Progression Podcast. I really appreciate it. But we're going to end this podcast with 3 things. First things first, when it comes to Resider, and of course the brand new song Pisser, which will be out by the time this episode releases, go script to the podcast to see where it says find Resider online, links and labels for everything, to where to find them online, where to follow along with them, to know when they're going to be playing shows, when more new music drops, where to go check out that music, where to go stream it, where to go listen to it, and where to support them overall. All the links are going to be down there. I'm doing all the research for it. All you got to do is click a link and go follow, like, share, subscribe, whatever it is. I got you covered. Now it's time for number 2, guys. Whenever I've guested on the Chord Progression Podcast that I enjoy the podcast, I tend to make a certain promise way to say thank you. I appreciate you guys taking the time, and I wish to continue to support the band in the future. And I'm going to edit this one a little bit based on the conversation. I always say when as a way of saying this is going to happen. I have to know a day or time. But when I get to you guys perform live for the first time, I will come and find you before the set. I will say hi to you, and I'll get you guys a cheesehead.
Yes.
yes, let's go. Let's go.
Heck she said
yeah.
is sick. That's
That
like
would be really sick, actually.
like the amount of How I Met Your Mother I've watched in my life, and all I could think of is when Marshall has to wear the cheesehead when he comes to as like his punishment.
What I can try and do too is I can talk to my cousins who own a screen print business here in Milwaukee. Take the Resider logo and get it printed on the top of the head.
Oh, I would keep that for eternity.
Oh my gosh, that would be insane.
Make my own museum.
That's so sick. That would be literally crazy.
Yeah, that would be the craziest thing possible.
Well, we got an idea. Let's make it happen. Let's get you guys to play out here in the Midwest. Get you guys play out to Milwaukee and perform in a cheesehead.
The goal. That is absolutely the goal.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Now it's time for number 3. As we bring this episode to a conclusion, I cannot end this by saying goodbye. That is way too final. This can't be your only time on the podcast. I'd love to be back on again in the future. And beyond that, though, I owe you guys a cheesehead when you come to Milwaukee. So this cannot be goodbye. This is, I'll see you later. Woo! Well, folks, that was my interview with AJ and Will from Resider. Now it's time for Kevin's final thought. And this is another one of those episodes that I absolutely love doing. Again, not many people might know about this band, but this is where you get to know some of the best artists that are out there that you don't know yet. We get a chance to be able to get in depth with who they are, where they came from, some of the crazy stories that they have, and you get a chance to really put like an investment into that band mentally. You can check out their music, and if you like it, you can say, hey, I found this great new band that you might not know about, but you're going to enjoy, so please come and check it out. And you never know how that's going to turn out. It could be something that is going to be one of the coolest things you ever get to do for a person, is introduce them to a great new band that they can get on the ground floor with too, because Resider definitely has a chance with their musical style to continue to grow and get a consistent touring date and start touring all around the world. They have the ability to do that. We see more people into them, and this is the kind of podcast that's going to be able to show you those bands, get you into those bands, and essentially do a whole bunch of great discovery for you. So I want to thank Adrian Wolf for being on the podcast. Please go straight for the podcast below to find Resider. Links, labels for everything, for social media where you can listen to music, where you can find them, play live, all of that. Please also follow along with us on the Chord Progression Podcast. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Links to the podcast below. Hit the subscribe button right down here, as that's where you can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can hit the follow button or subscribe button on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It helps us out as well. You can also like the episodes as well, because that's going to help push in the algorithm and get more people to know about these bands. So, yeah, go and do that. I want to thank AJ and Will for taking the time. And that's going to be right there. I was listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin. And you guys know how I end every single one. That was a big, healthy, and hearty. See ya! Yeah!